What Kirsten and I often find is that when we put a post up or we talk to somebody about cold calling, it gets a lot of attention, right? So I want to get your thoughts behind cold calling because, first of all, I'm gonna kind of jade this a bit. It doesn't work, right? But give us your thoughts behind it, and do you have any alternatives that can help people? Because I know we've talked a lot about getting information, doing stuff like that, and a lot of people think it's a daunting task to create information to get found online and everything like that. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's pretty easy, actually. But give us your thoughts on some of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you can probably tell by looking at me, I've been doing this for a long, long time. And when I got started selling, which was way before the internet existed, I started working for a company called Burroughs. And Burroughs was, at that time, was like the second largest computer company in the world. It was the industry then consisted of IBM and what they called the Seven Dwarfs, and IBM had about 70% market share. And my first job was we were selling desktop adding machines. And the routine was you came in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, the boss turned off the lights, and you went out and you put a calculator, desktop adding machine under one arm and my flip chart portfolio presentation under the other, and drove to a local business park, and I'd make cold calls on businesses all day long. Yeah, 20, 30, 40. I think my best day was about 70 cold calls. Not my best day, but my biggest day. About 70 cold calls. That was actually one of my worst days. And yeah, I hated it. And so I thought, geez, even then I thought there's got to be a better way to do this than just going door to door to door to door. And so early in my career, I always went with this concept of trying to generate sort of a warm lead, if you could, or a warm call to have sort of this initial contact. So in my computer selling days back then, did something that people do oftentimes today online, is I held a weekly seminar in our branch office. And I had two lines of business I was selling. I was selling building contractors, and I was selling CPA firms. And yeah, had a list of CPA firms and building contractors, and I had written a decent cover letter, and I would send out a cover letter with a postcard response and saying, hey, come in this Wednesday at 4 o'clock. And I'd send it to about 15 people a week, and normally I'd get 2 or 3 in.
Yep.
And yeah, when they walked in the door, it was cold, but they came in, there's a certain predisposition, obviously, to learn about the product, and it just then became sort of a different initial conversation than if I just called them cold on the phone. And so now, today, with all everything, LinkedIn and all the resources available online to learn about a company and a person before you speak to them, there's just no excuse for doing a completely cold call.
Absolutely.
But when you reach out to them the first time, it is still quote-unquote cold. I mean, yeah, you've never met the person, but at least you've established some basis of commonality with the person, and they know exactly what it is you're calling to talk about, and the fact they've accepted the call, they've basically given you permission to call. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different ballgame. And so, yes, there are people that are fervent adherents to cold calling. I think there's some differences in definition. Mm-hmm. If someone was telling me, look, my key part of my sales plan is that I'm going to make my numbers by going out and making cold calls, then yeah, I will sit down and have a talk with them and say, look, there's a much better way to do this.
Yeah.